truth?
I'm all ears.
Okay. The truth.
I always tell the truth, even when I lie.
Why do you find it so hard to believe?
Why do you find it so easy?
It's never been easy.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
Hello and welcome to Truthful Talk. I am your host, Marco DeGeorge, and this week I am flying solo today. Natalie will be back with us next time, along with hopefully others. But today you just have me, for better or for worse. But, you know, I still wanted to come on with you and talk about a couple of things that I think are really important, especially with kind of like where we are right now. Now, this is being recorded prior to the 2024 general election on November 5th. So this is prior to that. So depending on when you're listening to it. So I can only give context of where we are right now. Now, I don't, as an artist and as a teacher of the arts, I don't like talking about politics because I think that's separate. And I have a belief that as an artist, we need to be above politics. And what I mean by that is we need to be looking at the greater human condition, not the one that is so restricted by society or culture or, just beliefs in how a government is run and so forth. But with that said, I do want to talk about the importance of art within a society because for whatever reason, that has become part of the political debate. And I have a personal opinion that should not be part of the political debate. There's certain things that, politicians run the government and sociological things, common things, how much money is going to go into the military, how much money is going to go into school systems, how is healthcare driven, things like that. But the line this year or over the past few years has been breached into the arts. Now, I'm also doing this podcast from Orlando, Florida. So I have a very specific view of the local government here. When I mean local, it's not just local as in city and county, because actually our city and county governments are very pro-art and artistic expression, which I think is very, very important for a society and overall culture to evolve. We need the arts. But our state government has decided that art is not important for the evolution of society and culture. And to the extent that they removed all state funding to the arts. Now, I taking away the political aspect of should taxpayer money go into the arts or not, I want to look at the impact from a sociological standpoint. Because growing up when I did, art was very much a part of our educational system. We, of course, we studied the STEM subjects. We studied science and we studied math and English and, history. So we studied what we would call the logical subjects, things that are important to know, the things that help us, work at a job or in the business world or the ability to communicate with each other, so forth. But that was also balanced out with enhancing our creative side. And whether we had physical education, which, physicality is very important, and also other arts. We had music, which we learned from. We had physical arts like painting and sculpting and things like that. And then, of course, we had performance arts, the drama and acting and all of that. And all of that together is so vitally important for education. In fact, it's been proven over and over, both scientifically, psychologically, it's been proven in education that when you enhance a child's imagination, when you nurture and encourage that, it also enhances their ability to learn the logical subjects. It actually helps them in math and English and science. It helps them in those areas because there's two different parts of us. And I teach this, when I teach art and acting and all of that, I teach this the psychology of all of this, of how there's these two sides to a human being. And I call these the duality of the human psyche. There's two different pieces that make up who we perceive ourselves to be. One of those is the logical side, which you think of like in your head type of thing, the logical thought, the analytical side, the part of you that can learn and the intelligence and adapt and all of those things, gathering information. And the other side is what we would call our emotional core, down kind of like by your gut. It feels like it's in the pit of your stomach, but it's that area where emotion is created from. But that's also our creative side. And we have these two sides, and we call, and the thing about it is the logical side is also our fear center, meaning the logical mind's primary responsibility is to keep you alive. So yes, information is very important and knowledge is power and all of those things, of course, because it helps us navigate society. But according to just the logical mind, it's trying to navigate society to keep you alive. It's fear-based, not love-based. It's fear-based. And while that's not a negative thing, it can become a negative thing on its own if we don't support and nurture the other side, which we consider the love center. The love center, it's not like romantic love, but think of it more as desires and passions and creativity and imagination, the side of us that just wants to imagine what if this happened and what if that happened, and it allows us to explore. It allows us to see the world through color and imagery and possibly things that don't exist yet. It's all of that side of us. It's the wonder of the world versus the logic of the world, which is looking at how things are and trying to interpret it in that way. But the logic is the fear side because it's gathering that information, so it has enough knowledge to keep you safe in an ever-evolving world. The love side is the side that wants to just freely explore. So in balance, when we're nurturing both sides and both sides of those things are in balance, we are generally more happy, we're more confident, and we have the ability to learn and adapt and analyze what's going around us in a much more effective and efficient way. Versus when we remove the art side, which is the love center, and only feed the logic, it enhances our fear center. It enhances this feeling that things around us are always not the way they should be. It enhances the fear that everything around us is a conspiracy, that everyone around us is out to get us. It enhances those things without the other side. It also increases negative mental health. So we have a mental health crisis right now, especially in the U.S. And we've been seeing this. We've been charting this for the past several years. Our decline in mental health, especially in younger people, especially in teenagers and even going into preteens. Now, the decline in mental health can be directly attributed to the fact that nowadays we are feeding and fueling the fear center far more than we are the love center. As connected as we are, as great as technology is, it has connected us in a way where every time we're looking at a screen of something, every time we're checking a text, every time we're on social media and the algorithms that keep us on social media, it is in fact fueling the analytical side, the logical side, the fearful side. And that has a direct correlation in declining mental health, which then eventually leads, as we've seen, to greater aggression, to harmful behavior, either to others or self-harm, all the way to suicide. It's because we're not in balance. It's important that we stay in balance. It's important that we find moments to disconnect, to find moments to explore, to wonder, to see the beauty around us. It's important that we laugh. And we're not just laughing at mundane things. We need to laugh at the ridiculousness of the world sometimes, at ourselves, at each other. And not in any sort of, we're laughing because we're, in any sort of offensive way. But I mean, we need to laugh at how ridiculous things are. That's, comedians, that's their job, is to look at the way the world is and says, well, this is peculiar. Let's make a joke out of it. When we can laugh at each other, and we can laugh at ourselves and how ridiculous we're being sometimes, it lightens it. It breaks that tension. The arts allow us to do this. Music, movies, television, paintings, dancing. Like all of these things allow us to do this. Comedy is an art form. All of this allows us to find a break in just being absorbed in that fear center for so long. Because it's exhausting being absorbed in there. We need that. Okay, so coming back to, well, why am I talking about this today? What is prompting this today? Well, what's prompting it is, I believe, around the country, wherever we are, and I know we're in a very particular election cycle right now, but I believe as we move forward throughout history, we as human beings need to be aware of this. Not just at the national level, but at the state level and the local level. County, city, township, we need to be aware of these things. We need to be aware of when we are electing and voting for politicians, or voting for people that are governing our education, voting for people that have any sort of say in our local art. We need to find people who are supportive of the arts. It's a question that's not really asked. Typically, politicians grab onto, 2 or 3 major talking points. So this year in the general election, it's abortion, it's the borders, it's the economy, right? And that's it. That's all they're talking about. They're not talking about the other 100 things that we should be talking about as well. They're talking about some major talking points that might swing voters into their side. Okay. But what I'm also seeing, especially in this state, as they keep talking about the same 3 things over and over and over, especially right now from a state standpoint, I'm also seeing the decline in education and the decline in art, both happening at the same time. Now, as an educator, I'm very in tune to both. I'm an educator in the arts. So as an actor and director and a teacher, I'm very in tune to both sides of these things. So that's why my vision of it is a little more increased than most, because it's my daily life. But what I can tell you is that when education starts becoming so one-sided into logic only, and then on top of that, we're being told what we're allowed to teach and not allowed to teach in certain things, right? So the voices come out of that. It becomes very dictated to us what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. We'll just put it that way, without getting too far into it. And then on top of that, we're also seeing a defunding of the arts. We're seeing it at the community level. We're seeing it at the school level, public school level. This is an issue. This is something that is going to, in the generations that are currently dealing with this, which Gen Z and then Gen Alpha, these generations that are being deprived daily art, daily exploration, daily imagination, these generations are going to have increased mental health issues. And then, of course, if we mix that in, why is this a political thing? Because it's being done at the same time that we're also talking about, well, we also don't need more public social programs for mental health. We're saying it's not that they're saying there's not a mental health crisis, but no, the taxpayer shouldn't be paying for that. It's like, okay, fine. Then let's make sure that every single human being is given the ability to explore art, books, movies, music. Explore it. It should be taught in the classrooms. Imagination should be front and center. Teaching people how to create. Teaching people how to just science is not just about the facts. Science is about the exploration of what if. Math at its highest level is not just about accepting math that has already been done. It's about exploring. It's about seeing where can the equations go. So it's something that I'm seeing, and I think everyone needs to be aware of it, because when you're voting at a city, county level, ask the question, do you support art in the schools? Do you support art in the community? Will the local government help fund the nonprofit organizations of community theater, the Philharmonics, the ballet? Will they help do that? These things are what help a society thrive and evolve. They help us come together. There's something magical about sitting in a theater, and this could be a movie theater or a live performance theater or a concert, but there's something magical about coming together for an art form. And you're sitting in a crowd of people, like around you, right? We're inside this theater, and we're experiencing this art all together. And typically, depending on where in the world you are, of course, but typically you're sitting in a group of people that are diverse. Meaning, not everyone in this theater would be somebody that you would say outside of this venue would maybe decide to talk to or hang out with or socialize with. But for a period of time, we all come together and we sit in this same space and we experience this art form together. And we laugh and we cry and we go through all of these emotions as we are experiencing this. All at the same time, all together. There's a combined energy. It's absolutely beautiful. Because we're not sitting in this space arguing about it. We're not sitting in this space debating on whether it should or shouldn't be. We're going through our own feelings as we are witnessing this art displayed in front of us. To me, that is a beautiful statement on culture, where we can come together. I'm a believer that art can be very uniting. Art can bring people together. In fact, in our theater company, Theater on the Edge, our slogan for the theater, which is also our mission statement, is uniting humanity one story at a time, right? Uniting humanity through the arts. That's what we do. We're uniting humanity through the arts one story at a time. And to me, that's our mission. When we sat down and we first created the theater and our team, our core team said, well, what do we really want to accomplish? Every time we put on a play or do anything on the stage, what is our goal? And we discussed it, and the goal was, well, we want to bring people together. We don't want to be divisive. We're not putting art on our stage that says this is how life should be or shouldn't be. Art's not necessarily about telling you what to think and what not to think. It's about opening up your mind, opening up your heart, getting you to feel something different. giving you a glimpse into a different life that, you know, you may or may not agree with in your own life, but it gives you a glimpse into this. The issue right now in greater society is everything is so divisive. Everything is divisive. Both sides of the aisle on politics are divisive in their own way. They don't realize it. And of course, you know, each side blames the other. That's how politics works. But it's about divisiveness. And our job is, as artists, is to be better than that, to rise above that. As an artist, our job is to not look at one side of an argument or the other. Our side is to step. So as an actor, right? When I teach acting, I always say is, you know, when you step into a human being, me as an actor, when I step into the life of another human being, which is what we do as actors, my job is not to decide, as me, as Marco, my job is not to decide, is this character I'm playing good or bad? My job is to step in and to fight for that point of view of that character, regardless of what they believe, regardless of if their point of view of the world is different than mine. That's okay. But it's to step in and figure out, why does this person see the world that way? What is motivating them? What is driving them? And then to fight for that point of view. The beauty of that, and I absolutely love, as an actor, I love playing characters that are vastly different than who I am. I love that because it actually allows me to see a different point of view. Now, I may not agree, you know, myself, Marco, the actor, may not agree with this character's point of view, ultimately, but I will fully explore it. I will fully take on that point of view, and I will fight for it when I'm performing. And what it ends up doing, it gives me a sense of empathy for this other point of view, because I can now understand and see how this person arrived there. So instead of being just purely judgmental of, why does this person, you know, think this, or why does it, you know, instead of just being judgmental of another way of thinking or another point of view of the world, art can allow us to be more empathetic, to be more understanding, to be more open to other points of view. And we don't have to agree. It's not that we have to agree with each other. No, I mean, part of living in this type of society, the beauty of it is that we don't have to agree. But wouldn't it be great if we could civilly disagree? Wouldn't it be great if we could sit down and discuss these points of views instead of just throwing, you know, harsh comments back and forth? And art can do that. Art has a way of doing that. I'm a huge, and I always have been, I'm a very big Star Trek fan. And, you know, I mean, of course, you could argue with me whether you like the new Star Trek or not, or whether it's good or bad storytelling, yada, yada. That's fine. But, you know, the point I want to make with Star Trek is going back to the early Gene Roddenberry days in the 60s when it came out. He was telling social commentary. And in the 60s, there was a much heavier restriction on the social commentary you were allowed to tell on television. And he found a way around that. And I think in the most beautiful way possible. It's like, okay, well, if you want to talk about the issues of race that we have in society, it's like, you know, okay, well, they couldn't directly address it on television. But we could take a starship and go to a different planet where they're dealing with it. And we could address it there, because now we're not talking about the United States, or we're not talking about anything local, or we're not infringing on anyone's political views necessarily, because we're talking about this imaginary culture somewhere else. And we can address it then. And Gene Roddenberry was very brilliant in that way of exploration. he had Nichelle Nichols, who played Lieutenant Uhura on the bridge of the Enterprise. And she was a Black actress serving in a command position, right? She was on the bridge of the Enterprise back in a time period where that just wasn't seen. Opening up diversity, opening up the lens of what could be. To me, it was beautiful. Growing up, watching Star Trek, it was beautiful. And then, of course, it continued. It continued into the modern telling of Star Trek. And I always laugh when I read comments of people that say, "Oh my God, when did Star Trek become so like socially aware and politically involved?" And it's like, well, it's not political, but it is socially aware. It's always been socially aware since the first season of it came out in the 60s. But that's what art can do. Art can give us a glimpse into something else, a glimpse of what could be, or maybe a glimpse of a deeper, better way of life. That's the beauty of it. That's why it's so important. Without art, we as people and we as a culture will lose hope. We will lose inspiration. We will lose drive. Art is what gives us that, not our fear center, our love center. Think of the fear center as the parent, the very strict parent that doesn't let the child do anything because of the fear that something will happen to this child. Your love center, your creative center is that child. The child wants to play, wants to go outside and explore. It just wants to have reckless fun. It's not thinking of keeping safe, of course. The child wants to play. Now, I said earlier, it needs to be in balance because, of course, you don't want your child just to randomly and recklessly just run about without keeping somewhat safe. But we can bring our fear center and our love center together, have them work together. The parent doesn't have to be so strict with the child. The parent can find times for the child to go out and play. Play is so incredibly important. Not just for children, for adults. And we've lost that. Somewhere along the line, somewhere throughout history, somewhere we lost the ability to play as adults, to have fun, to put the stress down just for a second and say, you know what, for tonight, we're just going to have fun. We lost that. And we need to get it back. We need to have more times where we just enjoy each other's company and explore. Go into something called open mode, which is just a free exploratory space where there is no right and there is no wrong. It's just unabandoned fun. It's just this time we just see what could be. We need that. We need to get that back, but it's very difficult to get back because we live in a society right now that, for whatever reason, doesn't want us to have fun. Now, I have my own views on why, and I think if you just look throughout history, you can find many reasons why governments don't want their people to have fun. There's many reasons why governments don't want their people to have hope and have inspiration and have anything that gets them uppity. There's reasons for that. But we, the people, can still do that. Not everything needs to be so dire. Not everything needs to be so stressful. Not everything needs to be so serious. And I'm not saying that we don't take some things serious. No, of course we do. Of course we do. But somehow we need to bring back in fun into those serious things because we can be serious and have fun at the same time. We can do that. In fact, that can be done. We need to bring that back in. when I teach at the local university, one of the things I really try to instill in my class, and I never really know like how it comes across. Like I don't know if it's a lesson that some of them take with them. I hope they do, because I see them for about a semester or so, and then I don't see many of them again. But one of the things I say, and I try to reinforce every single class, is having fun. And I'll ask them, what did you do to have fun this week? Because life becomes way too serious. We need to explore. We need to find time to prioritize ourselves. We need to laugh. We need to play. We just need to do whatever it is that we consider fun, whatever it is. Whatever it is, playing a board game, great. Going for a walk, great. Whatever it is, sitting by yourself and listening to your favorite music, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Reading a book that you're passionate about doesn't matter. What matters is that we are cultivating that sense of fun in us, cultivating that child in us, giving that child identity and permission to come out and play. It's important. If we end up taking life too seriously, and serious in the sense of how we do in this country, which everything is so somber, when we look at life that way, when we just take on the stress every hour of every day of every week, if we just take on the stress of that, it will overwhelm us. It will break down our mental health. And ultimately, it very well could destroy us. We need to have fun. And I would love to know 10 years after, the student takes my class, if they're out there in the world, if that lesson ever remained. I hope so. I hope somewhere as they're going through life, they think back to, that time when I was in class and Professor DeGeorge said, make sure to have fun. I hope that clicks. I hope it stays in their mind. Because that's what gets us through. We need to find ways to enjoy life. There's too much negativity in the world right now. But this negativity can be overcome. It can be. We don't have to be so focused on the fear. We absolutely can take time out and just be appreciative of the world around us, of the people around us. Focus just for a minute on what we do have instead of on what we don't have. These are critical things for us to do. And coming back full circle to where I started, that's what the arts can do. Art allows us to have fun. Art allows us to explore. It allows the child out to play. Art does all of that. And we cannot, as human beings and as a society, we cannot sit back and allow art to be dismantled in our city, in our county, in our state, in our country. We cannot allow for that, regardless of whatever else you believe, regardless of your religion, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of however else you see the world. We must not allow art to be dismantled. It's been there since the beginning. Since we've charted humanity, art has been there. And it remains today. It's critical for the evolution of a society. It's critical for the evolution of a single person. We need it. We must have it. As you continue to go through life, as I said, this is recorded before November 5th. So regardless of what happens on that day and moving forward, everything I'm saying here still remains. Doesn't matter who politicians are of the time. It doesn't matter what's going on around us. I mean, believe me, things get real serious, but we cannot allow, if there's something to fight for artistic expression. That's what we need to fight for. Fight for artistic expression, because when you look around the world, if you look around the world in the places that where their people do not have the ability to have artistic expression, it doesn't really reflect where we want to be, or at least where I want to be. Some pretty bleak places around the world where you can get in trouble for artistic expression, where you can, be executed for artistic expression. Artistic expression. This is something that's more serious than people understand most of the time. But to me, if there's something to fight for, that's it. And again, I'm much closer to it being a teacher of the arts, being an artist myself, and then, of course, being an educator in it. But what I can tell you is this is what brings a society together. Art can heal. Art can mend. Art can remind us that we're not so alone in the world, and we're not so different as humans. We might look different on the surface. We might speak different languages, different shades of color. We might have different cultures and different upbringings. But if we go deep enough, we are all human beings. And the DNA building block of that is all the same. We're not so different. We're really not. And art has a way of reminding us that underneath it all, underneath all of these human disguises that we wear, these characters we play in life, underneath all of that, we're very much the same. We're all part of the human race. Okay, well, I think that's where I'll leave you today. Next time, Natalie will be back, and we'll have more guests with us as well. Those will be planned coming up. But for now, just remember to have fun. And I know it's hard to have fun every single day or every single moment of every day, but find a moment in your day to have fun. Carve out 30 minutes in a week to have fun, to do something just for you. Whatever that is, whatever that means. It's so important. And even if you did that for a couple weeks, just see how you feel. I'm curious about that. When I sign off every show, I say, remember to treat yourself with kindness and to reward yourself for the risks that you take. And both of those things are very near and dear to me. I mean, first of all, treating yourself with kindness. Obviously, the first step of that is treating others with kindness. We need to be a little nicer to each other. I think that's pretty important, especially in a society. Have a little more patience with each other. But it also goes hand in hand with being nice to yourself, because many times the anger and the frustration we feel with others is simply a reflection of what we don't like in ourselves. And I know some of you may argue the psychology of that, but it is there, and it is a founded psychology. That when we see something in someone else that we don't like, it is a reflection of some part of us that we don't like. And so we tend to be very self-critical and self-judgmental. I think it's also important to treat yourself with kindness. And again, I understand this is going to be a very tall order every day of every week or every moment of every day. Or, it's difficult. But start by just doing a little bit. Start by finding a moment in your day where you'll say something nice to yourself about yourself. Look in the mirror and just say one thing nice, whatever it is. And we can build off of that. We have something in the studio in Truthful Acting, when I'm teaching actors there, we have a saying that is, I am enough. Those 3 words. And we tell the actors, listen, every day, write that down where you can see it and simply say it. I am enough. And it sounds almost too simplistic, but believe it or not, we are creatures of habit, and through repeated effort, we can change how we feel about things. And so by looking at those words, I am enough, and saying them every single day, well, for the first couple of weeks, you might think it's silly and not really get much of a reaction out of it. But then all of a sudden, you have one day where you say it and you don't dismiss it as quickly. And then all of a sudden, you'll find a day where you say it and you actually feel pretty good saying it. And then all of a sudden, you'll say it and it gives you a boost of confidence or excitement for that day. Those 3 words have an amazing effect. I am enough. Because you are. You are. But it's up to you to do the hard work for you to believe that. So you can start by doing that, treating yourself with kindness. And the next is to reward yourself for the risks that you take. Part of, one of the things about living in an analytical society where that puts all of its focus on logic is that we tend to be result oriented. And of course, in life, we're taught that in school and in home and in all these different things. We're taught that, okay, well, what's the result of what happened? You get rewarded for a better result. You get punished for a worse result. But really, life is about the journey, not about the result all the time. Sometimes it's just about what did you do from when you started to when you arrived, what was the journey like? And so by having this saying that's reward yourself for the risks that you take, it's saying don't put your focus on the outcome. Don't be so driven to what happened because you took the risk. Put the focus on the fact that you actually decided and chose to take a risk. I tell my artistic students, every time you come into the classroom and do one of the exercises I'm asking you to do, that's a risk. It's an emotional risk. It's a mental risk, but it's a risk. They don't have to be physical risks. It has to be, just more of like anytime you do something that you're not used to doing, anytime, you go to a karaoke night and get up and sing karaoke, especially when you're not a singer, that's a risk. Every time you just go out and just play a game, that's a risk. Anytime you do anything artistic, that's a risk. Anytime you step out of your comfort zone, that's a risk. And when you reward yourself for the risks that you take instead of the result, it starts changing how you think and how you see the world and your perception, and changes it in a very positive way. And it's a very simple thing to do. A reward could be something as simple as a drink or a cookie or anything, even something you're going to do anyway. Like I'm going to eat dinner anyway, but you know what? Tonight I'm going to say to myself out loud, this is for the risk I took today. And then you eat dinner, or then you eat the cookie, or whatever it is. But you say, this is for the risk I took today. Because what happens is over time, you put yourself in a risk-reward paradigm. You get used to, I take a risk, I get a reward. And you start feeling good about taking risks. This is moving us away from the pure logic center, from the fear center, and moving us into that play, that emotional center, the creative center. It moves us in that direction. It starts balancing us out as human beings. That's why I say that at the end of every show, because I do think it's very important to do as people, as a culture, as a society. Very important to do. And I will leave you with that today. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope everyone has a really good week. I hope you find a way to do something fun. Please do. And I would love to hear about the things that you do for fun. I would love to hear about those. But please try to find something fun to do. We will be back again in a week. And until then, please remember to treat yourself with kindness and reward yourself for the risks that you take. All right, bye now.
If you'd like to learn more about our studio and what we do, you can find us online at truthfulacting.com. And check out truthfulactingonline.com for our Learn at Home at Your Own Pace courses.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.